There has been an amazing history of architecture and urbanism that emerged and evolved through living together. While we have forgotten this in the last century and veered towards private property and ownership, this rich history holds many lessons for us. This is particularly important as recent data suggest that the nuclear family is no longer the norm. People are increasingly nomadic, and housing prices have inflated in many cities. People are looking to find alternative forms of social units, home, and community. Instead of trying to speculatively answer how will we live together, we chose to research and analyze a series of communal living case studies, from intentional communities to those of convenience. How can we learn from these social and spatial types?
What we looked at was the relationship between the architecture, or what we call hardware, how individuals lay claim to space, or what we term software, and the governance and distribution of labor, or what we call orgware. Our assumption was that these needed to be considered to support each other for space and politics to find resonance. In this, agency in shaping collective life is a critical component of forming meaningful long-term communities. Our research sheds light on elaborately constructed forms of governance of the domestic commons and the social life in the community. In the resulting documentation and design work, we ponder how the articulation of spatial adjacencies fosters the formation of various social units and instigates communal interaction, positing that ultimately the architecture itself acts as the convener of a social life that corresponds with today's lifestyles and need for alternative family units.
The spatial contracts within a collective housing community is not only what distinguishes these social arrangements. Through being defined and continuously redefined by the users, it offers agency over one's way of life. The orgware of the project defines the political system, the mechanisms for governance, accountability, and stewardship. Further, it makes clear the labor, domestic, social, emotional, material, and immaterial, that is required to live together. We are interested in how the orgware and the architecture come together to form a larger spatial contract. Within our 5 design projects, we examine different ways that sharing can happen between resources, space, and time, as well as different mechanisms to configure and reconfigure the architecture.
From flexible curtains to thermal boundaries to transforming walls, what we are interested in is how architecture provides a framework that offers agency to the users while maintaining the collective cohesiveness to structure a conversation greater than the sum of its parts.
Further, these typologies examine how a system can be created to offer vast amounts of difference to acknowledge the complex subtleties of distinct ways of life.
We see the house as a central place of politics, enacted through everyday acts and interactions, as well as through the negotiations that occur in space.
Studying ways of commenting domestic space serves as an experiment on how we might have more agency over the house, but also offers insights on how we might scale up this agency beyond the boundaries of the individual building to the city and the planetary commons.